for a little while are huge improvements, and all of them can provide benefits to your company. I just want to touch a little bit on Associates is organized around some payroll centers of excellence. These are 3 areas that we've identified as having some specialized skills. I am part of the Payroll Center of Excellence, and we feel that these areas help to address some of the concerns from some of our clients. Those centers of excellence are focused around payroll and human resources, manufacturing, and project accounting. You'll also have different areas that you'll touch with your account manager. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Cindy, or your lead consultant or account manager for any questions that you may have along the way. As Cindy had touched on, our agenda for today is to touch on some of the new features, default print options, warning for duplicate checks, the new billed check file exception report, the edit pay code history information, the FICA tax sheltered annuity changes, and the modify pay benefit and deduction codes. So we'll jump into these real quick. For a default print option, being on the other side of the table, I had quite a few payroll people come to me and say, hey, I really want to skip this check alignment. As you work through your payroll process, towards the end, you'll actually have an option to print your checks, or what would come up normally, print check alignment. If you weren't paying attention or you happen to take a look at it and look away and hit the print button, you were often spent time generating a print alignment and burning through check stock. So with the new enhancements, you can actually now print the checks directly and skip the print check alignment. To set this option, it is in the payroll setup, so you will need to be a system administrator to do that. But this new box down along the halfway point along the right-hand side actually states print. So underneath your check format, in the GP 2010 and GP10, Microsoft Dynamics GP10, Microsoft Dynamics GP 2010, this feature was not available. So in that print feature in 2013, by default, during an upgrade, it will still come over as print alignment form. You can select the drop-down and pick to print the checks and earnings statement box. After clicking on OK, it will actually save that and allow this screen to skip on the payroll checks. If you do need to print an alignment, you can click on the print, and instead of checks, you can pick the alignment and generate a print alignment. But this was just a huge time saver in my environment. We often had somebody go through, click the print alignment, and we were running through check stock. Have to void a check, and then turn around and print out those checks. So as one of these time enhancements for a payroll department, you can actually just set this directly. It will also then roll for the earning statements too. So for direct deposit environments, it will also then just default to printing your earning statement. So a nice feature for this one. One of the other ones that we want to highlight is warning for duplicate checks. In previous versions, the option to allow duplicate check numbers was not checked by the system. So in your check management, checkbook maintenance, along the lower right-hand side is a box that says allow duplicate checks. The payroll module did not check that box to see if it was selected or not. It would allow duplicate checks. And that would create situations where if a duplicate check was created, voiding became very difficult and required IT consulting to go in and void that out via some SQL statements through the database itself. With this new feature, Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013 will actually check that box prior to printing your payroll checks. To get this check report to be generated, it is in the posting setup. So that's under your, again, a system administrator will have to set this, but in your company setup, the report is actually the UPR duplicate checks. So if you'll look here in my setup screen, the second one down will have UPR duplicate checks. So to enable that, you would select that report with the left-hand checkbox. And then click the OK. And select the OK button. Then during your normal check process, you'll see an error message come up on the duplicate check. At this point, if you hit cancel, you have the ability to change your check number or change your check printing range so that a duplicate check will not be generated. If you do click continue, a duplicate check will be generated. So you would have two with check number 1073 maybe. The next one we'd like to touch on for these new features is the new Build Check File Exception report. During your payroll process, when you select your build, it will normally generate a report to the screen. Those reports, depending on your environment and number of employees, could be 5, 10, 15 pages long, or in some cases 100 or 200 pages long, depending on your employee count. That makes it very difficult to go through and find out where your warning and errors are to be able to address those prior to payroll being generated. So a secondary report was generated, developed for GP 2013, Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013, that will allow you to just see the exceptions on the build report. In my environment, this was a huge time saver also. We were looking at a build report of about 150 employees. And it was very difficult to go through and just find the 1 or 2 errors in that listing of 150 employees. So to enable this, it's also in that posting setup. And there's a new report that will be isolated there called Build Check File Exception. In the screenshot that's up there, it's the third one in the line. That way, during your process, it will actually check to see if there's any warnings or errors and print them to a separate report. So if I select that one, you'll get a new report box pop up. And just the exceptions. So as a new enhancement here, again, for reports that are 4 or 5 pages long, it may not be quite so bad, but in environments where it's 50, 60, 70 employees, we'll certainly want to take a look at those warnings and errors ahead of time so it makes it easier to isolate. The next one is the edit pay code history. Employee pay code entries can now be edited for historical information. In the past, when you would generate a payroll check run for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2010 or Microsoft Dynamics GP 10, if the workers' compensation, SUTA or FUTA, were different or not set at the time of the check run, the information would then be incorrect and the historical calculations would be off. This would be a circumstance where maybe an employee changes to a different workers' compensation code classification, or maybe a different SUTA or FUTA state. Or again, it was not set at the time it was run. So now in Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013, the changes will be pushed to the history. So to enable that, you'll actually go into the payroll setup. Under Options, the box that would be selected is going to be the Edit Financial Fields. So this box is now added for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013. Along the right-hand box, you can actually see it as the fourth one down. When that box is selected, it will allow you to edit historical information for workers' compensation, SUTA, and FUTA. When that box is checked, now in the employee pay code history, you'll be able to click directly into the workers' compensation, SUTA or FUTA, and make your changes. Again, this will roll down historically too. So in this example, the first line, the FUTA is not selected. We can just click on the FUTA box, and it will roll down those changes. You can also see that the workers' compensation and SUTA boxes now have lookups associated with them to make changing them a little bit easier. So a nice feature for cleaning up issues that may have experienced during a payroll run. One of the additional pieces, one of the enhancements for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013 is some of the tax-sheltered annuity changes. This was added to separate the Social Security and Medicare in the deduction piece. On the deduction setup, this was set to have two separate checkboxes rather than the single one that had been available. I'll show you that in a moment. But to put it more in line with the benefits and pay code boxes. So on the left-hand side is Microsoft Dynamics GP 2010. And on the right-hand side is the same screen for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013. And right there in the middle of the box is where the TSA sheltered annuity. You can see on the left it just has FICA tax, and in the right-hand box it's separate. This was at a request from quite a few customers in being able to split those out. Finally is the payroll code modifier. I think this is one of the best features that would be released, is released with the Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013 package. And it allows you to modify any deduction, benefit, or pay codes that were released in your system. previous versions, you would actually have to inactivate the code, set up a new code with the correct settings, and then assign it to employees. That became very, very labor intensive if a code was set up incorrectly or had a different naming. This also can be used for imports where you had a legacy system and now you're going to change the naming conventions for your pay codes, benefits, or deductions. This can be done as a single code, or you can do it through a batch transaction and change multiple codes. So to access it, again, as system administrator, it's under Tools, Utilities, Payroll, and Payroll Code Modifier. Come up with a separate box for either a single change or multiple changes. So again, a single pay code, deduction, or benefit, or a batch, multiples. So from the drop-down box, you can pick pay code, benefit, or deduction, pull up your old code, put into your new code, and update. The system will do a check to make sure that the code does not exist. This will not merge codes. So if you already have one that's bonus and you want to merge a second bonus, this will not perform that function. But it will take a bonus 1 name and change it to bonus 2. And all of those changes would then be changed in history also. So for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013, it will make a check to make sure that the code is not in existence. If it is, it will say that it's already created and that you would have to use something else. And then make the change if it's available. To me, this is one of the biggest features available for Microsoft Dynamics GP 2013. Because it is a big time saver for the change or modification of a pay code. That way you're not deactivating and then rolling down those changes for an updated one. So Cindy, do you want to open the floor and see if there are any questions for some of these new features?
Absolutely. At this time, we will start the Q&A process. So if you do have a question, either please type it in the box, or if you would prefer